2024, Representative Omar gave remarks at an event in Minneapolis in which she made treasonous statements. Whereas Representative Omar said she has spoken to many Somalians who asked her to intercede for the Somali government by pressuring the United States government into certain actions.
Remarks to the gentleman from South Carolina. I have very strong disagreement with a lot of the statements that Representative Omar has made. We've covered most of them. That some people did something is the one that really sticks in my craw pretty strongly. Raises a whole lot of flags for me. I think there are significant amount of justifications to raise.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
The U.S. House of Representatives turned into a storm of outrage when comments made by Representative Ilhan Omar were thrust into the national spotlight. Lawmakers accused her of betraying the very oath she swore to uphold, claiming her remarks placed Somalia's interests above America's. What started as a heated exchange quickly evolved into a full-blown confrontation over patriotism, loyalty, and truth. During a charge session, several members recalled Omar's past statements, including her now infamous description of the September 11 attacks as "some people did something." To many, that phrase revealed a disturbing lack of reverence for one of the darkest moments in American history. Critics argued it diminished the pain of thousands of families who lost loved ones that day. The moment became symbolic of a larger question haunting her political career. Does Omar truly represent American values? Or has she blurred the line between cultural identity and constitutional duty?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A.1 of Rule 9, I seek recognition to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows.
Recognized.
Censuring Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Whereas elected members of Congress take an oath to bear true faith and allegiance to the United States without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. Whereas Representative Ilhan Omar took an oath of allegiance to the United States upon becoming a citizen, declaring, "I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen."
Tensions boiled over when Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene and Chip Roy took to the floor with a level of intensity rarely seen in Congress. Their speeches didn't just challenge Omar's policies. They accused her of undermining the very foundation of American democracy. Voices rose, emotions ran high, and the chamber fell into stunned silence as Greene formally introduced her resolution to censure Omar. The document accused the Congresswoman of violating her oath of citizenship, an oath in which she swore to renounce allegiance to any foreign nation. Greene's remarks echoed through the chamber as she read from George Washington's farewell address, warning against the dangers of divided loyalty and pretended patriotism. That historical reminder wasn't chosen by accident. It framed Omar's case not as political disagreement, but as a moral reckoning, a question of whether an elected leader could truly serve one nation while signaling loyalty to another.
Whereas on January 27, 2024, Representative Omar gave remarks at an event in Minneapolis in which she made treasonous statements. Whereas Representative Omar said she has spoken to many Somalians who asked her to intercede for the Somali government by pressuring the United States government into certain actions. Whereas Representative Omar assured the Somalians she spoke to, the U.S. government will only do what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else. They must follow our orders, and that is how we will safeguard the interest of Somalia. Whereas Representative Omar continued.
The censure resolution directly cited Omar's remarks from January 2024, when she appeared before Somali American audiences in Minneapolis. She allegedly claimed that the U.S. government would act only in the interest of Somali people. For Greene, that statement was a smoking gun, proof She said that Omar had placed foreign allegiance above national duty. The charge was explosive. Greene framed Omar's comments as evidence of foreign influence inside the halls of Congress, while her ally, Chip Roy, warned that this moment represented more than one politician's lapse in judgment. Roy drew parallels to historic congressional clashes, from battles over judicial nominees to constitutional crises, arguing that the stakes were no less severe today. His fiery words painted Omar's case as part of a larger decay in accountability and integrity, urging Congress to restore the moral compass that once defined American leadership.
For as long as I am in U.S. Congress, Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters will not be stolen by Ethiopia or others. Sleep in comfort knowing I am here to protect the interest of Somalia from inside the U.S. system. Whereas George Washington warned in his farewell address of 1796 to guard against the impostures of pretended patriotism, and further declared citizens by birth or choice of a common country, that country has a right to concentrate your affections. The name of American.
Omar's critics portrayed her as a lawmaker whose record consistently clashed with core American values. They pointed to votes against border enforcement, soft on-crime initiatives, and globalist policies that critics said weakened national sovereignty. Greene's voice rose as she declared that Omar's agenda was out of sync with everyday Americans. The speeches transformed from policy critique into a broader movement, a rallying cry for those who believe patriotism is under assault from within. Greene and Roy framed the issue as a defining choice: defend the Constitution or defend divided loyalty. The response among conservatives was electric. To many, it was a moment when political correctness finally gave way to hard truth. Even some moderates, weary of endless controversy, admitted the debate forced uncomfortable but necessary questions about where loyalty to America begins and ends.
Belongs to you in your national capacity must always exalt the just pride of patriotism more than any appellation derived from local discriminations. Whereas these statements by Representative Omar clearly violate the oath she took as an elected member of Congress to defend and protect the United States Constitution. Whereas Representative Omar has exhibited the treasonous tendencies George Washington warned about, and her actions must be condemned by all members of Congress who adhere to the oath they took upon assuming office.
Outside the Capitol, Omar's future looked increasingly uncertain. Reports surfaced of voters in her own district growing disillusioned, questioning whether she still represented their values. Local analysts described a dramatic shift, one solid support now showing cracks. The confrontation on the House floor may have been the breaking point. Commentators began calling it the most serious challenge of her career. Greene and Roy's stand wasn't just about one lawmaker. It became a symbol of resistance against divided allegiance in government. They portrayed their push for censure as a test of principle, a message that loyalty to America must never be negotiable. Whether Omar survives politically or not, the debate has already redrawn the lines of accountability in Washington, signaling that America First is more than a slogan, it's a standard.
Whereas by openly admitting her efforts to advance Somalia's interest, using her position as a United States representative, Representative Omar has revealed herself to be a foreign agent acting on behalf of a foreign government. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota be censured. Representative Ilhan Omar forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. Representative Ilhan Omar be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker, and Representative Ilhan Omar be and is hereby removed from the Committee of the Budget and the Committee on Education and the Workforce.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Appreciate the chairman.
As the debate raged, supporters of censure insisted the issue transcended partisanship. To them, it wasn't about targeting Omar personally. It was about protecting the nation from the erosion of trust in its own institutions. They argued that when an elected official appears to advocate for a foreign country, even rhetorically, it undermines the credibility of Congress itself. Greene's fiery defense of the resolution centered on the meaning of the oath of office, a sacred promise, she said, that demands undivided loyalty. You can't serve two masters, she warned, emphasizing that allegiance to the Constitution must come before cultural or personal ties. Her remarks connected powerfully with millions of Americans frustrated by what they see as Washington's growing moral ambiguity. Chip Roy reinforced her message, reminding Congress that history will judge those who stood silent in moments that demanded courage.
I do associate myself with the remarks of the gentleman from Kentucky, but also the gentleman from South Carolina, the gentleman from Pennsylvania, the gentlelady, all the remarks that we've been talking about over here. And I appreciate the spirit of the remarks from the gentleman from Colorado. And would note that we're here for a very obvious reason. The door was opened, and now we're dealing with that. And the door shouldn't have been opened. I'm reminded when I was in the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2005, and Miguel Estrada was being filibustered by the Democrat majority at the time. And we know why. We know this because a memo that said very specifically that he was being filibustered because he was an Hispanic conservative was found, but then shoved aside. We couldn't talk about it because it was found on a server, and he said, we shouldn't get it. There's a whole lot of backstory on that. But there was a lot of drama around that. There were 7 judges being held up: Priscilla Owen, Janice Rogers Brown, because she's black. That was all happening. We just sweep that aside. And you fast forward, and Bill Frist was being pressured to deploy the nuclear option.
Roy continued by drawing sharp historical parallels, warning that ignoring Omar's case would echo the mistakes of past political crises. He recalled the nuclear option debates and moments when partisanship overshadowed principle, arguing that this time, Congress must choose accountability over convenience. Throughout the hearing, Omar's past statements were dissected word by word, especially her claim that America would act as Somalians wish. To her critics, that was more than rhetoric. It was an admission of allegiance. They pointed to her vow to defend Somalia's waters and interests as proof that her loyalty was compromised. The debate was raw, emotional, and divisive, a collision between free speech and the limits of patriotism.
I remember being part of all those conversations, the Senate lawyer and the Judiciary Committee. Bill Frist decided not to deploy the nuclear option. In 2013, Harry Reid did deploy the nuclear option. 2017, then certain things changed at the United States Supreme Court. So now we live in that world. It is what it is. Now here we sit. The door was opened. I just went back and reread my speech on the floor because the gentleman, I hadn't done that yet. I went back and reread my speech on the floor. I stand by every word of that speech. And in it, I referenced the fact that I had just a few months prior had been in agreement with some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle with respect to January 6th, which there's disagreements on our side of the aisle on some of that with respect to the votes at the time. And that I'd taken very strong disagreement and sought apology from our colleague on our side of the aisle about some of the remarks that were said, but felt that this was not the right path to go down. I stand by that. So here we sit. I could associate myself and do with all the remarks of the gentleman from South Carolina. I have very strong disagreement with a lot of the statements that Representative Omar has made. We've covered most of them. That some people did something is the one that really sticks in my craw pretty strongly. Raises a whole lot of flags for me. I think there are significant amount of justice.
For Greene and Roy, Omar's words were not slips. They were confessions. They argued that her repeated remarks revealed a deeper truth about her priorities. Their message was unflinching. Divided loyalty cannot coexist with public office. Invoking George Washington's farewell address once again, Greene said the founders had already warned of this danger, that foreign influence disguised as compassion could erode a nation from within. As Omar's defenders countered that her statements were being twisted, Greene dismissed the argument, insisting the record spoke for itself. She demanded Omar's removal from influential committees, including budget and education, warning that no one should shape U.S. policy while pledging allegiance elsewhere. The debate reached beyond partisanship, striking at the soul of the institution. Outside the chamber, the reaction was swift and explosive. Conservative media hailed the speeches as a watershed moment, while progressives condemned the resolution as political theater. Social media lit up with hashtags and debate, reflecting a divided but deeply engaged public. When the dust finally settled, one truth remained. This was more than a fight over Ilhan Omar's future. It was a referendum on loyalty itself. Greene and Roy's message echoed far beyond the Capitol walls. In America, allegiance to the Constitution is not optional. For their supporters, this marked the beginning of a new era of accountability. For Omar, it may be the hardest chapter of her career,